You know, as a political science professor, I try to get my students encouraged, get them civically involved and engaged, and you're all doing that before you even reach college, and that's wonderful. That's really great. You guys are going to all be very successful, I can tell you that right now. You know, as I look back in my life, you know, I came to this country when I was 3 years old, and when I was in preschool, before I left China, the only memory that I had was that I saw these monkeys caged and given no respect as wild animals that they were. They were in the cage, or shaking the cage and frantically trying to get out. So what did I do? I freed them. And so I've been an animal lover all my life, and that's why I introduced the shark fin ban. It was a very easy thing for me to do. After I saw the cruelty that they were doing to the sharks and what it would do to the ocean's ecosystem, I gladly introduced that bill. And so those values you already have built into your system very early in life. And so your values, you value civic engagement, that's great. And that's going to get you guys a long ways. As I look back at the memory now, that is probably the first time I asked myself how I changed the world. Growing up in Silicon Valley in the 1960s was much different than it is now. You want to look at your left for a moment? Look to your right. Your neighbors around you are as a result of years of civil rights activists fighting for everyone to be treated equally. With leaders like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and others inspiring my life's work, I had to do a gut check and ask myself, what can I do in this world to make it and change it for a better, for the better? When I was in college at San Jose State University, I had a professor, Terry Christensen, who got me involved, civically engaged, just like you guys are doing right now. Because of the times, one of his main focus was to get people more involved civically. He encouraged each of us to get involved, and he took his pleas. I took his pleas and I ran for the city council. After looking for someone to get engaged with, I couldn't find anyone that carried my values. And so I put my hat in the ring and I ran instead. Of course, I got an A in the class. But I dropped out because I met someone in the process, Larry Stone, who was our current tax assessor, was running for city council at the time. Larry Stone and I became friends and allies, so I stepped out of the race and I helped him win. And of course, he's had a successful political career as a result. So sometimes you have to defer for the betterment of all. And I did that back when I was very young. During that time, I was encouraging more Asian Americans to get involved and run for office. Before, it was very white. Not that white is bad, but it should add a little bit of color to it too, because we're a very multicultural state. When I looked around, there was no one in office that looked like me, and I wanted others to have representation so that they felt that I could trust them. Congressman Mike Honda was one of my mentors. He met me when I was one of the boys out in the hood. I was a homie. I'm into hooking up my homies. That's what I do in the state legislature. Very simple values. Very simple values. You carry those with you. You guys are all hooking up your homies here because you guys are all working together for the greater good of our country and for our nation. Well, Mike Honda was a pillar in our community and someone I could stand up for, and you all know what happened. He ran for Congress, and he represents Congress in the Bay Area. In the early 1990s, my drive to change the face of Bay Area politics and national politics became more focused. I knew the only way to ensure that there were people who represent the Asian Pacific American community was to create a pipeline. We needed people getting ready to run for all levels of office, national, state, local, if we're going to make some kind of impact. I knew I had to do something to be part of the change in the world. I was one of the founding members of the Silicon Valley Asian Pacific American Democratic Club. I also founded Asian Americans for Community Involvement when I was in college. And of course, I became more political as my activism evolved over the years. And so I knew that we need to build an infrastructure within the Democratic Party of Asian Pacific Americans so that the Democratic Party could help Asian Americans elevate themselves in the political process. And they did that. We did do that. We've integrated with the Democratic Party, and they've helped many Asian Americans get elected in this area. Over 30 have been elected, and the pipeline is growing. Although I've worked on hundreds of campaigns, my focus is actually getting more Asian Pacific Americans into politics. Since the beginning, we've had over 30 successes in the Bay Area, including the first API city council members in Cupertino and Campbell, with the first API mayors in those cities named Michael Chang and Evan Lowe. The first woman Asian Pacific Islander city council member, mayor in Mountain View, Margaret Abekoga. The first Asian Pacific Islander vice mayor in San Jose, Madison Nguyen. With these leaders and several more, we have seen cities like San Jose, Cupertino, Campbell, Mountain View, Sunnyvale have API representation at all levels: school board, community college board, city council, water district, open space authority. All of this happened because I stopped and thought about how I could change the world. After all these successes, I did some soul searching. For the past 30 years, I had my focus as a backroom deal maker. Affectionately known by the Mercury News and other media outlets and the community, I was known as the API Godfather. Because of an API candidate wanted to run for office, they would meet with me and I would give them advice and insight and maybe my blessing. As I thought more about my role in the ever-changing world, I recalled Terry Christensen's words that passed on to my students that I passed on to my students in the community colleges. I taught them to get involved in their community, and I encouraged them to be part of the political process by getting involved in local campaigns. After years of preaching to my students, I decided to follow my own advice. In 2007, I started my campaign to run for the California State Assembly. With over 30 years of civil rights experience, being a professor at community college, and serving as a trustee at the Foothill De Anza Community College Board, I thought it was time to take the next step. In 2008, I was elected to the 22nd Assembly District representative. I'm honored to represent the cities of Mountain View, Cupertino, Sunnyvale, 80% of Santa Clara, and 10% of San Jose in our state capital. Every day the decisions I make affect the lives of my constituents and people throughout the state of California. While serving in the Assembly, I knew that I needed to stay true to my role in the community as a civil rights leader and supporter of higher education and a protector of the environment. I'm honored to have been chairing the Assembly Committee on Elections and Redistricting. I also serve on other standing committees such as the Water, Parks, and Wildlife for my environmental creds, Higher Education because I'm concerned about higher education, Utilities and Commerce Committee for the green economy that's coming up. And in addition, I serve on the chair of select committees on high technology, climate change, and coastal protection because of the global warming, the water is rising. That affects all the building and everything around the water sides. Also, I'm a member of select committees on aerospace, biotechnology, community colleges, domestic violence, innovation in the Bay Area economy, and job creation and the new economy. Finally, I'm a member of some special interest caucuses. Asian Pacific Islander Legislative Caucus, we have 11 members on there. Out of 120, we have 11. The Community College Caucus, about a half a dozen members, because I'm from the community college world. And about a half a dozen of us are concerned about community college issues. The Environmental Caucus, about 24 of us are in the Environmental Caucus out of 120. And of course, there's a Silicon Valley Caucus, formed by the Silicon Valley Leadership Group, made up of Silicon Valley legislatures. While I've been in office, I've been able to focus on some life-changing things. In fact, over 25 of my bills have been signed into law. I would like to focus on 3 that I am proud of during my service. During my first year, I continued my advocacy for equality and civil rights. California has always been an academic and cultural powerhouse known around the world is because our state's diversity has California been so successful in being a global leader to other states and nations. However, being the many accomplishments, California has a dark past regarding the treatment of its citizens. My bill, Assembly Concurrent Resolution 42's intention was to right the wrongs of the past. It was an apology from the state of California for the discrimination that the Chinese Americans faced during the early part of the history of California to the mid part of the history, 1850 to about 1950. Our legislature enacted laws which denied Chinese the right to own property, work, testify in court, marry persons of their choice, attend public schools. It was our state's government that pushed Congress to adopt the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, the first federal law ever passed barring a group of immigrants solely on the basis of race and nationality. That law directly impacted my family. My grandfather came over in 1939, was interned in Angel Island for 2.5 months before he was released because he was interrogated about his status. ACR 42 sought to recognize and apologize on behalf of the California State Legislature